Before I do this, I am a writer. I've been writing things for several years now. And about 3 years ago, I just was sitting down and got to thinking about things. And I actually wrote, to me, my first poem. And I presented this this past year at the Transgender Day of Remembrance. I think it actually fits in there. Name of this is, Why Do You Judge Me? Why do you judge me? I'm not like you. You don't know what's inside of me. I'm only human, man or woman, heart full of love. I see good in everyone, and you don't see good in me because you want to judge me? Is it the clothes I wear, the way that I appear? You want me to live in fear year after year. Why do you judge me? And I kind of have a follow-up to this. Just a few days I was at Patsy's cafe and was thinking about my poem, and I jotted something else down. If I were not here, did I touch a life? Did my efforts really matter? In the vastness of the universe, each light shines like a star. If I were not here, would the stars shine any less brighter? Would there be any less laughter? If I were not here, would you really care?
Donna, Dechen, Birdwell.
Okay, one more shot here. This is actually from my blog post today, which was just kind of a spur-of-the-moment thing this morning that I did. It's called Love and Romance. Valentine's Day inevitably, intentionally, brings up questions of love and romance. And today it prompted me to examine the romantic relationships of the characters in my Recall trilogy. Result? I'm forced to admit that my characters appear to have somewhat complicated relationships. Do I want to talk about that? I'd rather just give you a few examples. Here's Jenda Swain. You met her a while ago in Way of the Serpent. Jenda had always found a companion, a lover, on each of her previous 8 sabbaticals. The first was the only serious one, leading as it had to her marriage to Benjamin Cohen. That marriage had lasted only until Ben's next leave. All of Jenda's subsequent sabbatical relationships had been carefully circumscribed. In light of this experience, she was finding Luis Martin unnerving. She's a bit of a control freak, this woman is. Now, Malia Poole, my protagonist in the forthcoming Shadow of the Hare. At some point, Leo and I became lovers. I can't say we fell in love, because it wasn't like that, or at least not like the stories I'd read about people falling in love. We started hanging out together. Leo became my best friend. A little different kind of relationship. And finally, in book 3, which is called Flight of the Owl, we have Jonathan Swain. I'd always been drawn to Dextra, although not in a sexual way. My years as a monk and then as a retreatant had left me with a more deliberate sexuality than most. That's hard to explain, I guess. Let's just say I learned how to avoid being driven by my hormones into thoughtless entanglements. I'd learned how to decide for myself, and I'd never decided to become entangled with Dextra. I was never sure how she felt. Understanding women's feelings wasn't part of my monastic training. You see what I mean? Complicated. You may now proceed to psychoanalyze the author.
Brian Grosz.
All right. Should I do a quickie and then the one you want?
Sure.
Didn't mean that the way it came out.
Yes, you did.
Yes, I did. This was one I wrote the other day based on an offhanded comment from a writer friend that I know, but we'll just keep moving on that. Kathleen grinned at him with her teeth filled with silver. "You know what I need," she whispered breathily. He threw a leg up and got all the way into that hood. Hands sullied, but neither of them cared because this was an act of passion and filthy purity. And he busted 3 knuckles, working his fingers around in tight places, but it was worth it when she purred, growled, and sang out with open throttle pleasure. One never forgets a good screw, long or short, because you need all of those screws to get the generator back into a fucking 1955 Ford station wagon in order to make it run again. Thank you. All right, so this is a story that you've heard and you've heard.
This is by my request.
By Miss T's request. And this was a friend of mine had assigned me a word for a story. This might take a second, but the word I was assigned was nismesis, noun. A light tickling, often accompanied by an itching sensation. Upon Sammy Davis Jr.'s glass eye, the invention of the internal combustion engine, a naked Jane Fonda in zero gravity during the opening sequence of Barbarella, those moles on Lemmy's face, and all else that is holy, I swear that I tried not to make this sexual. Honestly, I tried, and failed. There was the time my soft, fluffy cat gave me fleas because she'd sleep in my dresser drawers. There was the time a roach crawled up out of the shower drain and up my leg. Maybe I could even talk about the first time I ever installed fiberglass insulation in an attic. But no, the thing that sprang to my mind with nismesis was my first STD test. "Let's go to the clinic," she said. "I'm already on the pill and I want to feel you. Let's just make sure we're both clean." Now, I had never had unprotected sex at this point, so I was fairly damn certain that I was going to get a gold star, a lollipop, a slap on the back, and a certificate that we could hang on the fridge to prove that my garbage was actually a precious element. Plus the notion of actually feeling a woman and not fumbling around with a condom every time we were horny, which was often, was certainly appealing. "Yeah, sure, let's go right now." And we left the apartment and walked towards the New York City, Chelsea Planned Parenthood with my limbic system and libido utterly tickled that if we both passed the screening, I wouldn't have to wrap my rod in a raincoat. And on the walk, she nervously said to me, "I haven't told you how many sexual partners I've had since I've been in New York City." Well, I thought to myself, we've been together for 3 months, and she's been barely here a year. I'm trying to do the math before she blurted out 15. If this was a game of pole position, so to speak, she had definitely lapped me. By a lot. But I chalked it up to being the sexual version of powerlifting at the gym, and I was the trophy, huh? So I said, "I won't judge you for that. Let's just go do this so we can go home and do it." But I suddenly started to get a bit itchy. We got to the clinic, which was omnisciently located across the street from a housing project, and the waiting room looked like Stanley Kubrick had designed a DMV for Franz Kafka. Harsh fluorescent lighting, hard plastic benches, at least one person crying, and more paperwork to fill out than getting a fucking mortgage. Started itching again. So she got called in by the lady doctor, and I got called in by the man doctor. Now, I suppose women are used to this if they see a gynecologist with any regularity, which they should. Shit grows in there. But unless I'm in a fist fight, I'm not used to having another man touch my genitals. It was insanely weird for me to give a blood sample, stand with my Levi's around my ankles, and have an Indian man I didn't know sit on a stool and inspect my cock and balls as if he was Johnny Bench, checking to see if the fruit was right and the linguine was al dente. But he was gentle. It wasn't arousing, but it did kind of tickle. And a part of me really wanted to giggle. Dude, I might feel like an idiot standing here with my junk in your face, but you went to college for 7 years to toss around my fuzzy fruit bowl as if you were digging into the tile bag during a game of Scrabble. And then he said, I have to test you for urethritis. This might sting a bit. You don't want to look down. And I need you to take a deep breath. Now, I don't know how the ladies in the room have ever been tested for this exam, but I do know how they do it for men, firsthand. His latex gloved hand took a hold of my dick, which tickled a little bit. And then I felt something that felt like cotton rubbing against the end of it, which also tickled. And then, well, I won't call it itching, I will call it excruciating. I love horror movies. I used to read Fangoria magazine as a kid. I had to look down. And there it was. I had no idea what to expect because it was my first STD test, but there were 3 inches of a metal rod sticking out of the end of my cock. And then he withdrew this steel Joseph Mengele implement of Q-tip torture, and I became aware of just how far he had gotten in there. I'm not making any claims as to my endowment, but the length of that thing could have been scraping my kidneys. And I went back out to the bus station of a waiting room with my poor penis itching like crazy to sit next to my girlfriend who looked insanely nervous due to her promiscuity. And she got called to the front desk and was handed a clean bill of health. She smiled. And the doctor called my name. Mr. Grosz, can you please come back here with me? Shit, I'm gonna die. My dick's gonna fall off. What did that bitch do to me? Your tests are negative, Mr. Grosz. But your urethritis test came back inconclusive. So we have to do it again, just to be sure. But I was tickled that it came back clean. I was tickled that I could start properly fucking my girlfriend. And I was tickled that I forced a man with an advanced degree to touch my cock so that he could pay the rent. But I was certainly itching every time I tried to pee for the next 3 days. Thank you. No kids in the room, right?
They would run out screaming.
Yeah, not anymore.
Sydney King.
All right,
All right.
we can do this, guys. We'll get through this.
I swear.
I just wrote this down and had no idea there was an open mic, so I went and jotted something down. I didn't want to come empty-handed. I guess in the vein of Valentine's Day, this should be appropriate. We'll try our best. Today my little brother called me a white boy. That's so disrespectful.
Called you a what?
He called me a white boy. Can you believe that?
Show me your card.
Liking Arcade Fire makes me...
I was going to say you're darker than I am.
What does he know he's for? Where does he get that? I don't know. Okay. Well, this is something I wrote about my ex. We've all have them, so here we go. At night I'd put the moon in the sky because she liked it. When we first touched, my legs were shaking. I told you it was cold, it was summer. I didn't want love, but I found a best friend. She told me Jason bought her a nice bike today. I've never had much money. A starving artist, and ties in. Sometimes I cry at work. The reason I wear fake glasses is because of this. Waking up makes me sick sometimes. It's been 4 months now and that damn Adele song, Hello, keeps playing. It's not that my song's about her. All love songs are about her. I moved from Houston because of us. All the ghosts. But she wants to bury me in Austin under Ichigo. Happy ex-Valentine's Day. Smile. You're in the live music capital of the world.
Oh,
Interesting.
Fidel.